It's 5:07. You raised the tipped minimum wage gradually over the course of several years. For those in Labor Committee, I know you heard this a couple of years ago, and this is just the continuation. We raised it for a couple of years. You might recall when we did that a couple of years ago that was the first time in 20 years that we had increased the tip minimum wage. And this is why that's important. When we are continuing to talk about raising the minimum wage without raising the tip minimum wage, we are widening the gap between what the employer pays in the employee's check and in their paycheck, and what that has to be made up by the customers who are being served by them. We've heard a lot of talk tonight about our neighboring states, and if you look at Connecticut, their tip minimum wage is exceptionally higher than ours, which means that you can cross over the state line and half a mile away from each other have somebody who is making half the tipped minimum wage as the other person between two restaurants, and it certainly does not, that inequity is certainly obvious on the border states, and it affects people's incomes. But, for me, this is also disproportionately about every time we raise the minimum wage without talking about the tip minimum wage, we are inherently saying it's okay to continue this gap, and particularly its impact on women. Women are disproportionately make up tip minimum wage workers in this state, and they're also disproportionately minimum wage workers, but they're higher disproportion of tip minimum wage. And they're more likely to be living in poverty and having to rely on food stamps and other mechanisms to make ends meet for their family. I think it's really important that we continue to advocate for both of these things to happen. Senator Caulkins' bill does both at the same time, and because I had done this previously and I knew we would be talking about minimum wage, I just wanted to make sure that we continue to have these conversations together and not leave behind people who are working with a tip credit versus working solely at minimum wage.